You know that feeling when you're scrolling through social media and everyone else seems to be living their dream life while you're still waiting for yours to begin? When opportunities keep slipping through your fingers like water, and you start wondering if maybe you're just not meant for the big wins. When you watch other people step into their success stories while you're stuck in the same chapter, reading the same page over and over again. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not actually a sign that you're behind. It's not proof that you're not good enough. And it's definitely not evidence that your time will never come. That restless energy you've been carrying, that quiet desperation that keeps you up at night scrolling through other people's highlight reels, that's actually the universe preparing you for something you can't see yet. Because what you're experiencing right now isn't delay, it's preparation. Every rejection that stung, every opportunity that didn't work out, every time you felt like you were invisible while everyone else got chosen, all of that was building something inside you that you're going to need for what's coming next. And what's coming next is bigger than you think. See, most people misunderstand how timing works. They think it's random, that some people just get lucky while others don't. But timing isn't about luck. It's about alignment. And alignment happens when who you've become finally matches what you've been asking for. You've been asking for your breakthrough for so long that you forgot to notice how much you've changed in the process of waiting for it. Think about the person you were a year ago. Think about what used to trigger you that doesn't anymore. Think about the conversations you can have now that would have terrified you before. Think about the boundaries you've learned to set, the peace you've found in your own company, the way you've stopped needing everyone to understand your choices. That's not just personal growth. That's you becoming someone who can handle what you've been asking for. Because here's the thing about big wins. They don't just show up in your life randomly. They show up when you've developed the internal capacity to receive them without self-destructing. When you've learned to trust yourself enough to make decisions from clarity instead of desperation. When you've stopped giving your power away to every person who doesn't see your value. You've been building that capacity in ways you don't even realize. Every time you chose yourself when it felt uncomfortable. Every time you said no to something that looked good on paper but felt wrong in your gut. Every time you kept going when giving up would have been easier. All of that was training for this moment, for this shift that's about to happen in your life. And it is about to happen. Not because I'm here telling you it is, but because you can feel it. You've been feeling it for weeks, maybe months. That strange combination of excitement and terror. That sense that something is moving beneath the surface of your everyday routine. That knowing that keeps you awake at night, not with worry, but with anticipation. Your energy has been different lately, hasn't it? You've been making different choices, having different conversations, seeing patterns you never noticed before. You've been less interested in small talk and more drawn to meaningful connections. You've been less willing to settle for good enough and more committed to what actually aligns with who you're becoming. That's not coincidence. That's recognition. You're recognizing yourself in a way you never have before. Not the version of yourself that's been trying to fit into spaces that were too small, but the real version that's been waiting patiently for you to stop apologizing for taking up space. This shift isn't just about external circumstances changing, though they will. It's about you finally stepping into the person you've always been underneath all the doubt and second guessing. The person who doesn't need permission to go after what they want. The person who can hold their ground without becoming defensive. The person who can receive compliments without deflecting them and criticism without absorbing it. You've been practicing being this person in small ways for longer than you realize. Every time you trusted your instincts when logic said otherwise. Every time you chose authenticity over approval. Every time you honored your own timeline instead of rushing to meet someone else's expectations. Those weren't just random acts of courage. They were you learning to operate from a different frequency. And now that frequency is starting to attract different opportunities, different people, different experiences. You're probably already noticing it. Conversations are flowing differently. Ideas are coming to you more easily. Solutions to old problems are appearing out of nowhere. People are seeing you differently, treating you with more respect, seeking your opinion on things they never would have before. This isn't your imagination. This is what happens when someone stops dimming their light to make others comfortable. This is what happens when someone finally decides they're done waiting for permission to be who they actually are. This is what happens when the internal shift becomes so complete that it starts showing up in every area of your life. But here's what makes this moment so significant. It's not just that your turn is coming, it's that you're finally ready for it. You're no longer the person who would have sabotaged the opportunity or convinced yourself you didn't deserve it. You're no longer the person who would have said yes to the wrong thing just because it was offered. You're no longer the person who would have given their power away the moment someone questioned their worthiness. You've learned to distinguish between your voice and everyone else's. You've learned the difference between intuition and fear. You've learned that your worth isn't up for debate, negotiation, or vote. And that internal knowing, that unshakable sense of self, that's what makes you ready for what's coming. Because what's coming isn't just success in the traditional sense. What's coming is alignment. What's coming is the life you've been building in your mind, finally meeting you in reality. What's coming is the end of wondering if you're good enough and the beginning of knowing that you are. You've been preparing for this moment through every disappointment, every closed door. Every time you had to pick yourself up and keep going when quitting would have been understandable. You've been building resilience, developing wisdom, learning to trust the process even when you couldn't see the destination. And now the process is about to reveal its purpose. Now all those pieces that seemed random and disconnected are about to form a picture that makes perfect sense. Now all those skills you developed, all that strength you built, all that clarity you gained, it's all about to have somewhere to go. Your turn isn't just coming because you've waited long enough. Your turn is coming because you've become someone who can handle what you've been asking for. Someone who won't waste the opportunity or take it for granted. Someone who will use it not just to better their own life, but to create ripple effects that touch everyone around them. This is your time. Not because the stars aligned or because luck finally found you, but because you've aligned yourself with what you've been seeking. And what happens next is going to surprise everyone, including you, because the person you've become while waiting for your breakthrough is capable of things the person you were when you started this journey never could have imagined. The preparation phase is ending. The manifestation phase is beginning. And everything you've been through has been preparing you for exactly what's about to unfold. The recognition is starting to happen in ways you can't ignore anymore. People are noticing something different about you, even if they can't put their finger on what it is. They're asking if you've been working out, if you changed your hair, if something good happened. But you know it's none of those surface things. It's something deeper, something that's been rewiring itself from the inside out. You're showing up to conversations differently now, where you used to shrink back and let others dominate the space. You're finding your voice naturally emerging, not loud or aggressive, but clear and confident in a way that commands attention without demanding it. You're asking for what you want instead of hoping someone will guess. You're speaking your truth instead of editing it to make others comfortable. And the strange part is how effortless it feels. Like you're not trying to be different. You're just finally being yourself without the layers of protection you used to need. The masks you wore to fit in don't feel necessary anymore because you've stopped caring about fitting into spaces that require you to be smaller than you are. This shift is happening in your work, in your relationships, in the way you move through the world. You're taking up space without apologizing for it. You're setting standards without feeling guilty about them. You're choosing quality over quantity in every area of your life. And that choice is attracting a completely different caliber of opportunities. Your network is changing too. The people who used to drain your energy are naturally falling away. Not through any dramatic confrontation, but through the simple fact that you're no longer available for dynamics that deplete you. And in their place, you're finding connections that actually energize you. People who see your value immediately and treat it with respect. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. This is about finally being someone you are. The person who's been buried under years of conditioning, under other people's expectations, under your own fears about what would happen if you stopped performing and started existing authentically. You're discovering that authenticity isn't scary the way you thought it would be. It's actually liberating. When you stop trying to manage everyone else's perception of you, you free up enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy for the things that actually matter, for the dreams you put on hold while you were busy being who everyone else needed you to be. Those dreams are stirring again, aren't they? The ones you thought were too big, too unrealistic, too much to ask for. They're not feeling impossible anymore. They're feeling inevitable, because the person you've become while learning to honor yourself is exactly the kind of person those dreams were meant for. You're starting to see opportunities where you used to see obstacles, solutions where you used to see problems, possibilities where you used to see limitations. Your perspective has shifted so fundamentally that you're literally living in a different reality than you were 6 months ago, even though your external circumstances might look similar to an outside observer. But you know the difference. You feel it every morning when you wake up with a sense of purpose instead of dread. You feel it in the way decisions that used to paralyze you now feel straightforward. You feel it in the confidence that's growing quietly inside you. Not the loud kind that needs to prove itself, but the quiet kind that simply knows its own worth. This knowing is changing everything. The way you negotiate, the way you love, the way you invest your time and energy, the way you respond to criticism and praise. You're operating from a place of abundance instead of scarcity. And that shift alone is magnetizing experiences that match your new frequency. Money opportunities are appearing differently now, not because you're chasing them harder, but because you're approaching them from a place of self-respect instead of desperation. You're no longer willing to trade your dignity for a paycheck or accept less than your worth just to avoid the discomfort of asking for what you deserve. Relationships are transforming too. The people who truly care about you are celebrating this evolution, even if they don't fully understand it. They can see that something fundamental has shifted, and they're drawn to this more authentic version of you. The ones who resist your growth are revealing themselves as people who are more invested in your limitations than your potential. Creative ideas are flowing in ways they haven't in years, not because you suddenly became more talented, but because you finally gave yourself permission to explore what genuinely interests you instead of what you thought would impress others. You're creating from joy instead of obligation, and that joy is infusing everything you touch with a different kind of energy. The synchronicities are becoming impossible to ignore. The right book falling off the shelf at exactly the right moment, running into someone who has exactly the information you need. Opportunities presenting themselves with timing so perfect it feels orchestrated. This isn't luck or coincidence. This is what happens when someone aligns their internal world with their external actions. You're beginning to understand that you weren't behind all those years. You were preparing. Every setback was setting you up. Every delay was ensuring you'd be ready when the real opportunity arrived. Every disappointment was redirecting you towards something better suited for who you were becoming. The person you are now could handle what's coming next. The person you were a year ago couldn't have. That's why the timing is perfect. Even though it felt like torture while you were living through the preparation phase. Everything you needed to learn, you learned. Everything you needed to release, you released. Everything you needed to become, you became. And now the universe is responding to this new version of you with matching energy. The external world is starting to reflect the internal transformation that's been happening quietly, steadily, powerfully behind the scenes. What felt like nothing was happening was actually everything happening. Just below the surface, where real change always begins. Your breakthrough isn't coming despite the waiting. It's coming because of what you became while you were waiting. And that makes all the difference in how you'll receive it, handle it, and multiply it into something even greater than you originally imagined. The momentum is building now, and it's building fast. So if you're here, if these words are hitting different than they would have even a few weeks ago, you already know what I know. Your turn isn't coming anymore. It's here. It's been here, waiting for you to stop looking everywhere else and recognize it was never separate from who you are. The waiting is over. The becoming is complete. And what happens next is going to remind you why every single step of this journey was worth it.